With winter storm power outages still in mind, regulators look to make changes to the state's electric markets.
Our market has been historically focused on affordability first and reliability second. Reliability moving up in the ranks of priorities.
But those changes come with a cost, why energy experts are raising concerns about how much money consumers may end up paying. After the Supreme Court allowed the Texas anti-abortion law to stand, one state's looking to copy that legislation to restrict guns.
Because SB 8 creates mechanisms for bypassing federal courts and federal review of these laws.
How the Texas law could boost the efforts of gun control supporters in other parts of the country. As the state's top high school athletes reveal their college commitments, new rules are giving them chances to turn their star power into cash.
You know, it's awesome. It's a great opportunity for these student athletes that work very hard.
How a bill passed by state lawmakers added new opportunities for these young athletes to make money.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Maggie Glenn, in for Josh Hinkle. The Texas Public Utilities Commission voted to move forward with more changes to improve the reliability of our power grid. We've told you how much of the Commission's focus has been on physical weatherization changes to make sure the grid is ready for this winter. But last week's decision was different. The PUC is deciding how the Texas electric market will operate in the future, and some people want the Commission to slow down before making those changes.
7-8, fixing the grid, cannot wait.
Protesters Thursday morning marched a petition to the PUC.
They need to listen to the people,
Demanding more public input before commissioners decide on long-term changes to the electric market.
each icicle on the power lines represents 10 signatures on our petition.
Energy experts are also asking for more public input and cost analysis, which so far hasn't been provided.
It's time to tap the brakes. The long-term reforms will have lasting impacts, not only to the Texas electric market, but to consumers.
Especially since Texans are already seeing higher bills due to one-time costs power generators incurred during the February freeze.
There is a bottom to the consumer's pocketbook. Every time the Public Utility Commission makes decisions, especially at this level, that are going to impact customer bills, they really need to proceed with caution.
Chairman Peter Lake says priorities for the electric market need to change soon, though, after the February freeze left millions in the dark and cold.
Our market has been historically focused on affordability first and reliability second. Reliability moving up in the ranks of priorities.
The long-term changes, known as Phase 2, include plans for backup storage generators can tap into in an emergency in the future. But those plans aren't finalized yet. With Thursday's vote, the Commission is asking PUC and ERCOT staff to come back to the table with more specific plans on February 15th. Cost analysis will come later.
We got to figure out what the specs of the car are before we know how much it's going to cost. These cost money, but nothing's more expensive than losing power.
For background on this story, I spoke with energy expert Doug Lewin. One concern he had was the lack of attention to energy efficiency in the PUC's plan. Lewin said inefficiencies across the state helped lead to the power outages last February, and without changes, he said it could happen again.
The only thing about energy efficiency in the memo is improved performance of existing programs. That's fine. We should improve the performance of everything. We should be improving the performance of gas supply and of our nuclear plants and gas plants, improve performance of everything. It's a great principle for life overall. Sure, fine. But the problem with the efficiency programs isn't that they're underperforming. They do an evaluation, measurement, and verification every year that shows they're returning close to $3 for every dollar spent. They're performing quite well. They're just tiny. I just think this is a big blind spot. But 77 gigawatts of demand in February, much of it driven by heat, by very inefficient heating systems. And that is not going down. More people are moving to the state. Temperatures, there's no reason to think that 2021 was not the worst storm we've ever had. There were at least 2 documented storms that were colder. So, it just seems like I'm just at a loss for why they're not focusing on that more. I just don't get it, because I just don't think they can solve the problem without going after that.
The last time Texas redesigned the electricity market was more than 2 decades ago. Back then, the PUC listened to the public over 16 days in 8 different cities across the state. So far this year, they've only taken public comment in person during their regularly scheduled open meetings here in Austin. Attorney General Ken Paxton is once again suing the Biden administration, this time over mask and vaccination requirements for staff at Head Start early childhood education facilities. Head Start is a federally funded program that provides free childcare for low-income families. Monica Madden explains the lawsuit and takes us inside one Head Start facility here in Texas.
Safety is #1 priority in any child care.
Brittany Fitzpatrick has had her hands full throughout the pandemic as the health manager for Head Start Child Inc.
We want to set them up for as most success as possible. And one of those things now are including masks.
Masks are not new at their facility, but the federal government is now requiring them for kids ages 2 and older in Head Start programs.
I haven't had any disrupt from parents.
Unless they have an exemption, staff will also have to be vaccinated by the end of January, a mandate Attorney General Ken Paxton is already contesting in court.
We are funded by the Office of Head Start, and so we're going to follow what the offices of Head Start require us.
The suit says this rule is unlawful and will decrease availability of Head Start programs in Texas.
The Biden administration relied on old statutes and old programs to impose mask and vaccine requirements. And in several cases now, the Texas Attorney General has filed suit against the Biden administration, arguing that they don't have the power to impose these requirements.
It marks the 4th lawsuit Paxton has filed against the federal government's vaccine requirements.
Under the precedent in Texas, this policy will likely be put on hold, at least temporarily, and that's an issue still being tested in the courts.
Something political analysts predict will continue so long as the pandemic does. Monica Madden for State of Texas.
As for the rule for Head Start employees, they can get a religious or medical exemption and will have to be tested weekly if so. The rule goes into effect on January 31st if the courts do not block it first.
The field is set for the Texas primary. We bring together a panel of experts to look closer at some of the top races on your ballot and whether any incumbents in Texas are at risk. After the Supreme Court allowed the Texas anti-abortion law to stand, other states are looking to copy that legislation for different purposes.
We're seeing now one of the first real shots across the bow from Governor Newsom in California.
How the Texas law could boost the efforts of gun control supporters in other parts of the country.